Hello there my friends listening to Ebird Online, and finally, I'm sorry it took so long for me to do this video, but I had an awful lot to watch and I finally watched everything and collated my thoughts. It's a real doozy. It's Mike and Ximena. Okay, so on this week's list of unbearable assholes, Mike and Ximena both score really highly. And although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger curve, even he should hear the clanging noise of the alarm bells with Ximena. Now most of the time when I do these videos, it's a fairly well-worn narrative. Somebody wants to get to America, to live the high life, but I don't think it's true of Ximena. I think she wants a nuclear family unit, and I think she wants somebody to provide stability for the boys that she's been thus far unable to provide herself. I've got stuff to say about him, her family, her daddy. Want to hear more? I thought as much. But first, thank you so much to everyone that subscribed. My figures in the last month have been really good. But I'd just like to impress upon you the ridiculousness of failing to subscribe and press the notification bell. If you don't, who knows what you might miss. Come on, hit it, smash it, press it, caress it. Subscribe, my kids, subscribe. And also, don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Right, and so without further ado, I give you Mike and Ximena. Okay, and so Mike's 34, he's from New York State. He's an IT support tech and a volunteer firefighter. Ooh, sounds like quite a good catch. Oh no, he lives at home with his dad and his grandfather. And he hasn't had a relationship since he was 14, in high school. What? That's such a long time, that's crazy. And I have a few points to make about that a little bit later when we speak to his family and friends and their ideas of when he meets up with Ximena. They've got a lot to say, but it seems to me if your friend and your brother hasn't had a girlfriend since he was 13, so for 20 years, now he has, you can pipe the F down. Oh dear guys, I've said it now, oh well, saves me saying it later. And so it's the usual story. Mike tells us he had problems finding girls in the local area, but no problem at all when he switched to Colombia. And as soon as he did so, he met Ximena, who's 24 and has 2 children. And Ximena's a single mum, and she too lives with her parents. But they moved in with her when hard times hit, I'm guessing because of COVID. So we catch up with Mike before he's just off to Colombia to see Ximena for the first time. And he meets his friends and family before he goes. So first he meets with his brother, who's a firefighter as well, and he said, well, you need to take time with this girl and you need to really get to know her. I think this is a really crazy decision, and I think more than likely she's going to be using you. You don't know her. And Mike lets us know that both of his younger brothers have families, they've married and got kids. And here's my question. Okay, little bro, you're advising Mike not to go and meet Ximena. And I get that. I get it can be a little dicey, but what's the worst that can happen? Well, I suppose she could tell you her ex-boyfriend's a hitman, but I guess that wasn't that likely. In real terms, what's the worst that can happen? He comes back with his tail between his legs and says, no, we're not in love. It can't go any further. He's had a great 2-week holiday. Why are you so invested in him not going? You're married, you've got kids. Have you spent your time trying to get Mike out and about, trying to fix Mike up with girls, trying to help Mike to get what he wants in life, which is to be married and have kids and have a nice family? That's all he wants. It's not a big request, it's not a big ask. Are you helping him do that? I think not. So right before Mike goes to Colombia, he meets up with a couple of his friends with the intention of buying some toys for Ximena's 2 kids. And so I think that's a really nice thought. And it's also really nice that he didn't just roll in on his own. He wanted to find out, what do you think they would want? And yet again, his friends, which were a couple that he's known for many years apparently, couldn't hide their dismay at the fact that Mike was buying stuff for Ximena. And he let out that he bought a sofa, for one, a fridge freezer, and also helped her with her rent. And unsurprisingly, they were really not happy with the state of affairs. They think she's using him. And they think he's on the rocky road to nowhere with this girl. And I say the same to them as I said to his brother just a few moments ago. Are you now, or have you ever, tried to help set Mike up? Are you helping make sure he has a full and busy life? Are you now, or have you ever, helped him set up a dating profile online and given him hints and tips and tricks to ensure he's more successful in finding the one? No, no, and no. So really at this late stage, it's none of your business. brother, friends. It wouldn't have come to this had you helped him previously. And it's not as if I'm saying you can fix him up with a girl with ease. It's also helping to boost his confidence, get him out and about. You need to be advising him, guiding him, counselling him, just showing him how to get what he wants in life, how to walk in the right direction. His friend said, Mike, you've saved a lot of money and I don't want you to blow it all on this girl. And guys, I wanted to shake this friend and say Mike cares not about the money. If he did, he probably still wouldn't be living at home. Also, stop watching Mike's pocket. He's already got Ximena and Ximena's dad doing that, and that's more than enough. Anyway, back to Ximena. We see a few shots of her with her family. And she's walking around her apartment saying, Mike bought me this. She points to a fridge freezer. Mike bought me this. She points to a TV. Mike bought me this. She points to a sofa. For one. It's not a sofa, that's a chair, my love. And then she lets production know that she has a big secret. Oh, great. We all know that a big secret is the key to a long, happy and healthy relationship. Honestly, 90 Day Fiancé and their big secrets, they're out of order. And as we find out later, her big secret is quite the doozy. And so Mike's friend finishes up by saying, this relationship is beyond red flags. Well, it is and it isn't because 1, she does exist, and 2, she does actually want to meet him, so it's not completely ridiculous if you've never seen Mike, and she's never seen Mike. Mike's friend thinks that she's got loads of guys like him all giving her money, and I say to Mike's friend, she's lucky she's got Mike. But Mike doesn't want to listen to all of this. Good for you, Mike. He says it's real and it makes him happy, and he's going to go with it. Go on, Mike, we're all behind you. And so when Mike finally arrives at the airport in Colombia, Ximena starts how she means to go on, by letting him down. She arrives at the airport late, she's wearing 6-inch heels, and she complains that Mike's too short. Baby girl, just take your shoes off, you'll be absolutely fine. And so first they go for a meal, and then they go to the most awkward meeting of all time with her family. And so instead of just having her nuclear family there, she has her mum, her dad, about 3 sisters, her 2 kids, and everybody sits in a tiny room, all sitting, staring at Mike. And as we know, Mike doesn't speak any Spanish, and nor she English, so he has to say everything over a translator. As Mike speaks to the family, with the translator mistranslating every other word, Ximena stands behind him and rubs his back. Oh, Ximena, he's going to need more support than that. Production speak to Ximena's dad, and he says, the translator doesn't work. I don't know what kind of guy this is. Ximena's dad is the kind of guy that pays your rent because you can't pay it, not just for yourself, but for your wife and for the rest of your family. That's what kind of guy Mike is. You might want to think about that. Guys, I'm not a fan of Ximena's dad. And so Mike gives Ximena's 2 kids, Juan and Harold, the presents, and they seem to really like him. And they say immediately, Mike's our new stepdad. And something tells me that Ximena runs along at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And so they all sit down and have a lovely meal. And Ximena tells production, this is what I've always wanted. This is just a normal, nice, lovely family. But Mike has other things on his mind. He tells production that he can't wait to give Ximena the best night of pleasure ever. Oh really, Mike? I didn't know the cast of Magic Mikes were touring Colombia. Have you paid for a few of them to come round? That's the best night ever. I don't think you'll find it's you, Mike. But we'll see, I guess. We'll see. And so the following morning, production poke a nosy nose into Mike and Ximena's business, and they ask both of them, whilst they're sitting next to each other, how they rated the performance of the previous night. Mike said it was the best night ever, and Ximena said for me, it was completely normal. And guys, I don't want to come across as having low expectations, but completely normal is what I'd call an absolute win for Mike. It's fine. It's a strong starting point. Yeah, I think so. And so the next day, Ximena, Mike and the whole of the family all go to a beautiful waterfalls in Colombia. Guys, I think I'm in love with Colombia. It looks absolutely stunning. And so whilst they're at the waterfall, Ximena talks to her sister about her big secret. And apparently her big secret is the fact that she can no longer have children. Her sister asks if she's told him that she can't have kids yet. And Ximena confirmed that indeed she had not. And then she gives us a boohoo story about having 2 cesareans and that she had her tubes cut and burned so she can definitely never ever have kids again. And she laughed as she said it's going to be a hard blow for him as he wants to be a dad. And she also explains to us that she wanted to deliver this devastating life-altering blow to Mike in person. As you do. Après gifts. And so later in the afternoon, whilst they're still at the spa, She let Mike know that she had something muy importante to tell him. She delivers the knockout blow, and Mike's face fell along with all of his dreams. And straight out he asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" And she said, "Are you angry?" And he said, "Well, I wish you would have told me." And guys, I think she was very tricky about all of this. She told him with her whole family there, so of course Mike couldn't kick off. And he said, "Well, I'll have to think about things." And she looked slightly worried. But then Mike tells producers that they've talked loads about wanting to have a family and having kids together. And he said he's very upset. Guys, I can't believe how duplicitous this girl is. And so the next time we meet up with this couple, they're going for a walk. And Mike still looks completely shell-shocked with Ximena's big news. And he asks her once more about it, and she talks a lot about her suffering and how awful it was when she was pregnant and how she nearly died. Ximena, we all understand all of this. It must have been terrible. The truth be told, what she went through does sound absolutely awful. However, why didn't you tell Mike? There's no chance of me having kids. That's the question he's asking. Not why did you have your tubes cut? He understands that bit. Very easy to understand. He wants to know, why didn't I know about it before the other day? And unfortunately, Ximena doesn't seem to understand that. She said I was dating guys that maybe I shouldn't have been with. What, like Mike? And she said I didn't know if I was going to get pregnant again. Maybe I'd have even more kids. Again, without a dad. Guys, you know how Panama doesn't have electric toothbrushes? Maybe Colombia doesn't have the birth control pill or condoms. So then she tried to guilt trip Mike further. And she said, "You can be a dad to my 2 kids. And later on, forgive me for not being able to give you a child." Oh, Ximena, of course I'll forgive you for that. But I'll never ever, as long as I live, forgive you for the lies, the subterfuge, the deceit, the duplicity. That's the issue. But Mike folds and says, "Okay, well, no more lies." And she said, "I promise." Another day and another beautiful tourist spot for these guys to visit. It's a town called Solanto, and Mike has booked a beautiful log cabin for the couple to stay in. And I have to say, he's absolutely outdone himself, and they both exclaim, "What a beautiful room this is." Guys, it was just so romantic. She lay on the bed and he lay on top of her. And then he burp kissed her. What? Yes, that's right. He went to kiss her and accidentally burped on her. Instead of apologising, he just laughed it off. Ximena was less than impressed. And so they go out to their private pool to have a talk and to get to know each other. She talks about the fathers of her kids, and it turns out it's 2 different guys, and she was never with either of them. And then she said at some later unspecified date that she'd also lived with a hitman. What? And so apparently she met some guy in a tattoo parlour, as you do. They started seeing each other, she moved in with him, and within a week it transpired that he was a hitman. That's what he did for a living, killed people. So guys, it was a rather convoluted and patchy story, but allegedly this hitman told her she had 3 days to live, and so she rang the police, and she never saw or heard of the hitman again. Mike's immediately very worried, and he wonders if the hitman might make another visit at some point. But she said it was years ago and she's never seen or heard from him since then. Guys, I find it weird that you move in with someone and you don't know what they do for a living. Very strange. But guys, there's trouble ahead. Ximena's not happy. For the next day, she's talking to her sister on the phone and she tells her that she's super grossed out by Mike because he burps, he farts, he leaves his clothes on the floor, including dirty undercrackers. And she says it's infuriating her. And Ximena said, "I don't know if I'm getting a husband or another kid." It's not another kid, is it, Ximena? The last time I looked around here, kids didn't buy sofas for one, fridge freezers, TVs, and pay rent for you and your whole family. Kids don't do that. What kid are you talking about? Justin bloody Bieber? She really is full of it. But she says she needs to tell Mike because she wants to be honest. Oh right, so you do understand that concept then? That's good. And so she goes back up to the room. And she sat him down and said, "There are some things that I don't like about you. Burping, farting, makes me fall out of love with you." And Mark apologises, but is somewhat surprised. And he tells production, "I don't know where all of this is coming from. I didn't do any of these things on purpose. And it really upsets me that she's prepared to end the relationship over these trivial matters." But he tells Ximena that he wants to work on these things with her together. And it seems to me that Mike's been watching Dr. Phil. Mike, your burping and farting and bad habits are all down to you. You don't need to work on it together. Just sort yourself out. Stop burping, stop farting. If you accidentally do it, apologise for it and don't just laugh. And that's where we finish things for this video. So what does the Ebird make to all of this? Okay, so my first thought is, Ximena and Mike are not right for each other. And I know what you're all thinking, but Ebird, you cussed off his family, his friends, everybody earlier in the video because they were saying the same thing. Here's what I say. I think this whole experience is good for Mike. Mike needs life experiences because since he left school, he's just gone to work, gone home and played with bloody Lego in his room. He needs to learn how to be in a relationship. And so even the last little argument they had about him burping and farting and picking up his clothes, it's all good information for him. It's all ways that he can move and grow. And so I really don't think he's wasting his time. And people make much ado about him sending her money. I kind of don't really think she's in it for a grift. I don't think Ximena wants the money. I think she just wants a family unit for her kids. And a nice dad and a good role model. Rather than the layabouts and ne'er-do-wells she's obviously previously been dating. Not to mention the murderers. But I think the problems are going to arise for Ximena because Mike is just not her type. She says she's used to going out with the cock of the walk, you know, the usual alpha male type, and of course this isn't Mike. Her first remark when she saw him is, "Oh my god, you're so small." And she's more than happy to throw the relationship away on trivial things such as burping, farting and him leaving his clothes on the floor. She didn't even like him enough to say, "Pick your clothes up," because it gets on my nerves. By the time she finally delivered it to him, she had so much vim, she was saying, "I'm going to finish with you if this doesn't change." It's like, what? It's the first he's heard of it. Now, I don't want to stereotype, but do you think it's likely that she asked the hitman to pick his knickers up off the floor? I don't think so. And if she did, she certainly wouldn't have told him in the same manner that she told Mike. I think she has a certain lack of respect for Mike, which is going to shine through. And low-key, if I look at Ximena 9 times out of 10, when she's looking at Mike, regardless of the fact that she's saying, "I love him," she's looking at him with a mild sense of disgust. She hasn't thought this whole relationship through. She just wants to get to America and create a nuclear family. She's tattooed and she goes out with hitmen. She lives life on the edge. And Mike really is Mr. 2.4 kids, if you could finally find that wife and 2.4 kids. And I just don't think it's going to be Ximena going forward, I really don't. Neither one of them are massively committed to this relationship. I know Mike spent ages fantasising about her, and I know he sent money over. Well, according to his friends, his money bag's Mike, so money is probably not that big a deal for him. But she didn't bother to learn any English whatsoever, and he only knows a very few words in Spanish. It really doesn't sound like commitment to me. And thus far it seems to me that Ximena's put very little effort into the relationship at all. Yeah, she's a decent looking girl, she's got body yaddy, I like her style. But that does not a marriage make. The future for these two is very, very shaky, I think. But I thought I'd save the best for last. I'm utterly astounded that she knows that she cannot have kids, and she also knows that Mike desperately wants kids. And she kind of thinks it's okay to deprive him of that. And I think that she thought that she was hot enough stuff that when Mike got out there, she'd be able to deliver this news and he'd ignore it because he'd think, well, I'm with the girl I love and she's really fit and I'm sleeping with her, everything's great. And more than likely at the moment, he does think that. But I think when he gets back home and he speaks to his brothers and his friends, the same ones that are looking for trouble, and he tells them this bit of information, I think it's going to be over. And for most people, this would have been a deal breaker. But in the situation that Mike's in, he's prepared to go along with it. But for how long? I think not long. And then finally, I just want to save a last little bit of smoke for him and his dad. He seems none too fond of Mike, and I understand if he thinks that Mike is not right for his daughter, I completely understand him saying to Ximena, very quietly, have a think about it because I'm really not sure. But Mike's dad has the bollocks to talk on camera and disparage Mike and say he's not the kind of man I want for my daughter when he's paying his rent. Guys, it's the audacity for me. It's fair to say I'm not a fan of him and his dad. So guys, that's my take on this couple. What do you think? Do you think she's out of order for withholding the information from Mike? And do you think she was, I don't know, slightly sneaky in the way that she framed it? Feel sorry for me, I just daren't get pregnant again, rather than addressing why she lied, why she didn't tell the truth. And what do you think to what she said to Mike about his burping and farting? I agree with her, but I just kind of think maybe her delivery was a little bit harsh. I guess it's difficult when you're talking different languages, but I do think the delivery was rather too blunt. for the crime. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in comments down below and I'll get on with my next video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you've yet to do so. And if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. And I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online and I bid you good day. And guys, I had to put this in at the end. I must have said this one phrase about 15 times before I finally got it right. And although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger curve, and although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger curve, and although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger curve, and although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger fuck me. And although Mike is frolicking at the front end of the Dunning-Kruger curve, finally!